Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round number 6 of the SRS GT3 series here live at Down Under at the famous Mount Panorama circuit. I am your stand-in commentator and host for today's race, SD_RDZ, and it has been a very, very long time that I've been in one of these commentary boxes here for one of these races. James Head has been keeping the seat warm, nice and toasty for me here as the final race before we engage in our Christmas break. That is right, we will be off this coming Sunday in favor of spending, a little bit of time with the family, Christmas time. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and I get to enjoy it with you beforehand by taking on James Head's role. I can't even say his name today. In for a round of commentary here for the famous SRS GT3 series. Of course, James Head coming off of the 24 hours of Formula One event that was live streamed just recently, and so of course the SRS GT3 series pledging £30 for the 24 hours of Formula One's special event, donating £30 to charity for their cause. And then of course we are officially Grid Finder approved, so of course if you guys want to get on board with the Grid Finder program, it's a very special program for us to be engaged with, and we are certainly more than happy to be a part of that ever-growing community as well. So of course James Head taking the break from the commentary box. I know his voice must be very shot, very tired, very dried up from 24 hours of commentary. And I'll tell you what, driving for 24 hours is one thing, but then doing it on the mic for 24 hours, it's not easy. So, so of course, standing in for him today, and it should be no problem as well. Tice now getting the cars ready to go for 10 minutes of qualifying for this 90-minute endurance race. Oh, as Bo Fishadara, I'm pretty sure, has left the track. Everyone's saying that they're ready on up. Of course, we only got about 10 cars for today's running, but it's nothing short of what can be delivered. Tice saying no to being ready. I guess he's not genuinely ready just yet. And so we'll pop on to the YouTube live stream saying, Doug Barrow saying, good luck all, sorry that I can't be there. Doug, we're missing you already, mate. And hopefully you'll be back in 3 weeks time, or 2 weeks time, for the next round of the series qualifying, ready to get underway for 10 minutes of the world famous Mount Panorama circuit, otherwise known as Bathurst Circuit at Mount Panorama. my vocabulary is off once again. Tice is going to be the one that will lead him off in the number 78 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. And so he will be on his way to get things started. Sharon Palmer saying, good luck all. Hello, Trevor. Sharon, it's good to see you again in the chat. I know it's been a very, very long time since I've been in the commentator's box. But of course, we're getting ready to get feisty once again for this 90-minute Enduro, the second one of the season of 3. So that's why we have 9 rounds of the season. But every third round, we will have a 90-minute Enduro to spice things up a little bit much longer as well. Splash in the number 11 Mercedes in that Spirit of Lithuania livery. Of course, a very special livery for Splash to be running that. And we'll see what the Lithuanian driver, but the British flagged driver, can do in that number 11 Mercedes. He's been up in the mid-pack, but sometimes he'll have his bright shining moments to be at the front of the forefield, of course. And hopefully he can change that here today as well. There is the runner-up in the first season of the SRS GT3 series, SMM Palmer in the 24. Of course, he and T5 Black, I remember last season, just literally nose to tail, just could not separate each other from last race, and hopefully I can get another front row seat of that as well. There is the number 29 Winding Road Racing Aston Martin of Supra Boy. Of course, hoping that he can get on board with that car once again. There is Hair Razor, who finished runner-up in Tier 2 last season. Of course, we're not utilizing the Tier 1 and Tier 2 system anymore, but just basically to who can get the most out of their cars. The 69 Costa Racing by SDM entry, of course, sporting a new yellow livery which looks very, very nice. Credit to Doug Barrow, of course. Jeremy in the chat saying, love you, Trevor, miss you, buddy. Thank you, Jeremy, for the nice, kind words, and I'm glad to be back here for another exciting round of the SRS GT3 series. Qualifying getting underway. We'll take it to T5 Black, the man on a mission. Of course, our Tier 1 champion has been Team Simpact Racing's front foremost force in this league, and he has not put a foot wrong in any shape or form. The Swede just very quick on the draw, and he and Palmer have been giving each other an absolute run for each other. Sidemax versus Team Simpact. Who will come up on top once again this season? I'll take you on the championship standings in the middle of the qualifying. There is UTAP in the Aston Martin. I believe that is the 34. That is correct, the 34. We got Bar 27 in the third Aston Martin, the 27. Oh, he's actually put a foot wrong. Just caught it on the curbing and then just slid it off. Something he definitely doesn't need to have happen right now. I think we can get a replay of it. See where he put the foot wrong there. Primarily on the curbing. Yes, it was on the curbing. Both left side tires, and just right into the wall. Such bad news for the American. There is the Spaniard, the flying Spaniard, SMM Uray. Of course, I've had the liberty to partner Uray with a couple of leagues and a couple of the programs this coming year, and he has not he very rarely puts a foot wrong in any race car, and Audi is basically his specialty vehicle. He is one of those guys that the Audi, it gets a lot of crap for its driving style, but Uray just puts it down like nobody's business. Of course, we had a 3-hour endurance race here in the summertime with Uray piloting that car, and he took it home. It wasn't the fastest car of the day, but guess what? He took it to a 3rd place finish. And we were all looking at it like, what in the world? He can make that stuff work. What a man that Uray is. Walshweiser in the 21 Lexus, of course, down a little bit, but of course trying to fight is what he can. We got times coming in. Splash fastest with a 2:01.7, Tice with a 2:01.7, and then Superboy with a 2:03, 2:04 for Razor, T5 Black with a 2:01.8. So Splash, the top 3 separated by only a 10th, but just look at how close the top 2 are between Tice and Splash. A good first lap for Splash. B8 UTAP with a 2:04.6, Uray with a 2:02.8. So these times, they will start to fall. 2:03.8 for Walshweiser, and I think we're waiting for Palmer to come on through unless he set up a time. He's actually elected to pit on that first flying lap, which is a very interesting strategy call for the 24. And it's going to be interesting to see how this does play on out. I am looking at the live streaming, and I'm seeing 10 of you out here for the broadcast live. Thank you so much to you guys for tuning into today's race. And we get a number 11 in the stream as well. So thank you to everyone tuning in for another exciting round of racing here for the SRS Motorsports League for the GT3 series for Season 2 in this 90-minute endurance race. And so what we'll do now, Splash, of course, he has been a hard-fighting speed demon, and of course I've had the luxury and honor to be able to partner with him for basically the whole calendar year. Of course, wherever we go, wherever we prove our interest in particular leagues, we go together, and we could bring a couple other of our speed demons along. And Splash has been one of the most absolutely hard-working sim racers that you could ever come to. He's a very good guy to talk to on and off the track. A hard racer, of course, knows. Oh, and that's Tice! That is Tice who spun it, and he's got massive engine damage. So what's happened to Tice? Understeer, and just right into the tire barrier. And so he is going to have to abandon that flying lap. Splash is going to come into the pits, as well as T5 Black. Superboy up into 4th place. Hairraiser into 5th. Uray getting displaced down by 2 positions. And the top 3 coming into the pit lane. But that is a massive amount of damage for the number 78. Of course, knowing that that damage will be repaired, and it has repaired. And what a big moment for Splash as Uray pops to the top of the timesheets with a 2:01.684. Like I said, don't doubt Uray in that Audi. He can be quick given the right circumstances and the track conditions. He's got the speed in that Audi. And so he's going an even 10th further up the field, faster on his flying lap. Just comes to show you how quick Yuri can be in that Audi R8 LMS. James had in the chat saying, hey everyone, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there tonight. I'm supporting from the stream though, hoping it's going to be a great race. James, we appreciate the hard work that you've done for the season. Of course, 5 rounds of commentary as a stand-in for me. I appreciate it so much as I was able to take on new employment opportunities. Of course, things have dwindled down a little bit, and of course, I'm able to do it once again here today at Mount Panorama. But thank you, James, for all the hard work you've done to Yuri! He spun it around out of Skyline! And what a big moment for Yuri as he was on a flyer of a lap! Just understeered, caught on the grass, overcorrected, and into the wall just as he was coming into Skyline, getting that unique driver's view. And that might take out some confidence from the Spaniard, who is currently sitting on pole, but not by much. Splash only needs to get a 10th up, and even so, another 10th from Tice to get it. And actually, Tice, interestingly, burning up the fuel. Of course, I've seen this tactic done a couple of times, and I think T5 Black is doing the same thing. Yes, he is. So Tice and T5 Black actually electing to burn some of that fuel. And that might be the Achilles heel as Palmer goes to the top of the timesheets with a 2:01.4. And so Side Max looking very, very strong, but Splash up in the middle of it. And Palmer 3/10 up, but look at the gaggle of cars here just trying to get the slipstream. Oh my goodness me, this is Matt and Palmer even going quicker than his 2:01.4. This is absolutely insane stuff as Yuri now goes for another flying lap. 2:05.1 for Barr. That puts him, I believe, 10th overall, 3 seconds off the pace at the moment. Let's give you an onboard view of Palmer, who's just having to sit, and I think he's had to let off. I think he knows that he's definitely going to have to, as a matter of fact, is he even going to make it around for one more lap? Oh, you can tell Palmer is not happy. He's flashing the lights, so he's not doing so well. Sharon Palmer saying, where is Palmer? He's currently on pole position, but he's getting majorly held up by the number 29. And this is not good news, because he knows he's got a faster time underneath that car than a 2:01.4, but he's getting absolutely held up by the 29, and this is not good news whatsoever. And so we'll take you back up to the front of the field now, where I believe it is Splash. No, it is actually Hairraiser in 7th place that is leading him off for the final time. Because we do have that variable camera. Splash and Razor coming over the crest with a couple more behind. This is the final lap of this 6th round of the SRS GT3 Series qualifying session. Coming through the chase is these gaggle of cars. 3 Mercedes in this gaggle of cars as well. And so Razor going to come around the final corner to count the final times. Oh, Splash going into the grass. I don't think that's going to help him out as much as well. And Razor will improve to 6th. And that will put him ahead of Superboy. Splash not even able to improve, as well as a lot of these guys as well. There is Tice. Got a gaggle of cars coming through. There is UTAP down in P9. I think he will come through to improve, and he will go to 8th, which is good. Yuri does not improve, so he even had a slower lap, but that's good enough for 2nd place. Now who's coming across the start finish line? Barr in 10th place, but no improvement. Walshweiser does improve to 7th, so that's a good improvement for him. Tice coming through now, and it is 2nd place, so a good improvement for Tice. But what about T5 Black? And he pops to 3rd place to break the Cymax domination. Splash, who was in the top of the session, gets bumped down to 5th by the end of the session. And so now 90 minutes from here on out to the line, it's a Cymax Mercedes 1-2 with Palmer and Tice taking up front row. T5 Black and Yuri on road 2 with Splash and Razor for the Speed Demon crew in 5th and 6th. Walshweiser and Superboy in 7th and 8th, with UTEP and Barr rounding out the top 10 of this field. And so the brake lights are on. Side by side, standing start. When do the lights come on off? You can barely see them, but the brake lights, and then it is green flag racing here. We're going to quickly hop on out and then quickly back on as the 2 Mercedes side by side. And it looks like Tice right around the outside. Palmer's not giving him any inch of room. It looks like a clean start from everybody, which is good. I didn't see a lot of shuffling. Splash actually getting bumped down to 6th. Hairraiser with a tremendous start up into 4th place. But T5 Black already on the back bumper of the 2 Mercedes. We're to go on board with the Swede. Palmer trying to cover up that line, and T5 Black into the barrier, just understeers out of 5th place, and he's going to even drop down to 6th. That's not good news for T5 Black. And I believe that was just cold tires and a mix of understeer, which has not helped him out. Oh, and Superboy really aggressive out of the corner. That wheel spin, trying to keep the car in a straight line. Oh, Ure into the wall a little bit. Very, very slow. Splash, I'm sorry, right up the back bumper. Oh, and Splash into the wall. Just trying to get the most out of the can. And Hairraiser, what a showing for the Brit. Starting in, I believe, 6th. Yeah, starting in 6th, has made 3 positions by the halfway of this. Oh, by the halfway of the starting, and he's on the back bumper of Palmer and Tice. So Hairraiser going to do what he can do in the 69. And this is absolutely insane stuff that we're seeing from here. Of course, Palmer and Tice just double towing, just trying to get a bit of a gap to these guys up front. Palmer now, I believe, trying to go for the lead of this race, and he will most certainly do so. I saw a gaggle of cars, and Ure is going to get absolutely swallowed up by the Viper and Mercedes of Splash and T5 Black. But Ure covering off that line very, very well. T5 Black down to 6th. Of course, he is an absolute monster when it comes to race pace. And I believe is he going to try and short shift a little bit. Hard into the braking, of course, with Superboy right on his tail in that SRT Viper GT3R. And so now Palmer and Tice still up at the front. Oh, and Razor with a little bit of wheel spin. Splash going up into 4th place as well. This is absolutely insane racing for only even being just a lap into this gaggle of cars. Of course, Walschweiser, I believe started in P9, I believe, or P8, has not done a whole lot, but we'll see what he can do for the majority of this race. But this gaggle of cars right here go on board with the Spaniard SMM Ure. Just takes it very, very nice and easy in on that Audi R8. Also, if you hear me crunching on some food a little bit, I'm getting a little festive this time of year with some milk and cookies, of course. So. Of course, you'll hear the chocolate. I get my preferred chocolate chip. So, that is good stuff. So, getting a little festive this time of year as well. Ure taking it nice and easy. And Ure has said that he has had a bit of throttle issues, but I don't think that is the case this time by. So hopefully he's gotten that sorted out as Superboy into the wall a little bit, just scraping the Falcon banners onto the right. And Razor has dropped back substantially from the 2 leading Cymax Motorworks Mercedes of Palmer and Tyson. Splash makes a move on his teammate in the number 11. And Razor's not going to it's just not going to fight that off as easily. Just let him go. He knows he's the faster Mercedes, and of course it's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4. So just showing that this front engine GT3 car just has the mechanical grip and the straight line speed. But can they do it over a long 90-minute race? As T5 Black now just trying to get back onto the back bumper of the number 69. Oh, and Superboy with a big tank slapper out of Hell Corner. Keeps it on. Superboy doing a very, very good job at the moment. And so now, the 2 Mercedes of Palmer and Tice just working in tandem, not even giving each other a chance to even really fight it out. But Splash doing what he can to get back up to the front of the field. Of course, he's shown tremendous pace over the years that I've been able to race with him as well, but I think 2020 has just been the year where he has just come to absolutely roar in any race car. And so now I'm going to see here just been kind of a bit of a quiet race, and I think that was Bar 27 who's had a big moment. I'm pretty sure we're going to see if we can try and get an eye on that. Oh, and I think he's just clipped it, trying to take as much corner as he can. No damage on that car, but he does have a 5/10 slowdown penalty, which is going to be pretty interesting to keep an eye out for as well. So this race, what I thought was going to be T5 Black charging through the field, has been kind of surprising me a little bit, because I thought I expected T5 Black to really charge up, and just like that, he's going to absolutely take that Viper, sink its fangs into the bends, and just soar right on by like nobody's business. If he can keep it on the track, of course. And so, that is one Mercedes down, but he's got 3 more to go if he wants to try and make anything work to get that race lead. So, Splash, I think, dipping a wheel into the dirt, but he's setting his fastest laps of the race, and I think Palmer is setting even faster laps. Of course, putting a gap to 1.3 on his teammate, and Palmer has just absolutely roared to life. It's just, I've been able to witness Palmer over the past year or so. Of course, not at the front, but he's shown tremendous pace, but as soon as Side Max have picked him up, he has seen driving that I would not even expect from Palmer, and there's no wonder as to why Side Max have picked this guy on up, because he can go into any race car, absolutely be the Charles Leclerc that I know of course, Tice being the Kimi that we all know of, but Palmer, if there's one driver that I can relate to him in the real world, it's got to be Charles Leclerc, an up-and-rising young talent who has shown tremendous pace over the past couple of seasons that we've been able to race with each other. And there's no doubt in our eyes that Palmer is going to be, and I feel like he can definitely be on an esports level for a very long time to come as well. And I know Cymax, they have got big plans, and they keep seeming to add their roster of fabulous talent for as much as they can. And it's going to be interesting to see how this goes as well. Jeremy in the chat saying he's rapid and his throttle pedal doesn't even work right. Really now? Well, that's an interesting thing to note as well, that his throttle pedal doesn't even work right. So maybe he's got a maybe he's got like tool assisted speed run on the throttle. And just to show you, he's already established a near 2 second gap to Tice, and actually, as a matter of fact, Tice being pressured by the number 11, and I don't think Splash actually is just going to try and hold on for the time being. Might there even be a little bit of team orders from the Cymax crew to hold up Splash, who's trying to let Palmer go as fast as he can? And T5 Black not that far off as well. I think Ure, has he dropped back a little bit as well? I know if Razor and Ure have both dropped back a little bit as well. Might they be saving fuel is the big question. We're not 100% sure about that. But we're going to take you on board now with the number 11 Splash. Of course, he knows he's got the speed. Oh, and Tice, big moment there from the number 78. We're going to take you on board now, and I was actually given a bump draft. Let's take a look at this and just show you how much lucky that Tice is. Full, nearly 180 degrees wheel lock, and I think Tice just really just trying to save the fuel, I feel like. Excuse me, Jesus. I think it's time for me to have some more of the holiday spirit with some cookies, I'll tell you. And so now, with just about 10 minutes elapsed into this 90-minute endurance race here for round number 6 of the SRS GT3 series, Splash trying to make a move into chase, but I think Tice, I think he thought better of it. And so Splash, I think, just trying to sit behind. Might he be shaving the fuel a little bit, which could be interesting to note. It's actually interesting to note as well that Tice is actually on slightly worse tires than Splash at the moment, so that might be helping. That might be the reason why Tice is slowing down just a little bit. Maybe the tires are giving out much quicker than we had anticipated in these Mercedes AMG GT3s. But T5 Black, I think, just not able to make much work with that Viper. I know he's short shifting a little bit as well as he sets a purple sector 1, so he might be on course for a fastest lap of the race. Razor in your right, of course, Razor we saw with that tremendous start in the race from P6 to P3 on the first lap and just dropped down to top 5 position at the moment. Oh, and actually like that with a big moment, not like that. Now he's going to have to start fighting off the Spaniard of Ure who goes alongside, and I think Razor just let that by no problem, and I think might the mechanical wear start to be an issue in that Mercedes. Palmer now 3-second gap over the number 78. Palmer just doing his own thing. It's kind of a quiet race, but keep an eye out on that 79 of T5 Black. There can be things that he can do, but it's going to be interesting to see how he does them is the big question. Splash, what's he got in for the number 11? Of course, in the slipstream. Starting to make a lunge. And now he makes the move now in going towards the chase. Tice has got the inside line. Splash has got it, but will Tice make it something work? And he covers it off very, very nicely indeed. So Splash, he thought he had that covered off, but I don't think he wanted to make too much of a challenge for the number 78. And Tice just gets that position back like no problem. But while they're fighting it off, keep an eye out who's on the lunge for a potential move up into second place. T5 Black. I said that things can happen, and it's going to be interesting to see how this does pan on out. And so now coming to the near end of the first 15 minutes of the race, Tice doing an incredible job to try and hold off the number 78 while Palmer just does his work and gets ahead. So is there any battles that are going on track at the moment? Oh, we got this gaggle of cars here for 7th at the moment with Superboy. Oh, and Superboy, how in the world did he not even wreck is the big question. And this gaggle of cars just going at it. Aston Martin, and Lexus, Superboy, UTAP, and Walschweiser just really going at it. We'll take an eye on Walschweiser's point of view. And just, you kind of wonder yourself in a situation like, what am I supposed to do with UTAP? Oh, that's 2x2. Oh, and UTAP into the wall. Gotta keep it careful. That's gonna cost UTAP a lot of time. And Superboy now establishing a 1-second gap. And all of a sudden, that battle pretty much done and dusted for now. We'll take you back on board with T5 Black and Splash. If he wants to get by Tice to keep T5 Black from getting him, he's got to get by Tice on the straight. Here comes the slipstream. Tice covering that inside line. He's actually going to give him a bump draft, which is quite interesting to see as well. But T5 Black, oh, Splash coming off that line pretty nicely. But will we see pit stops this time by as Palmer kicks up some dirt? Palmer will stay on out for one more lap, so I think he's going to come in for another lap. Oh, look at this now, Palmer. Excuse me, Jesus. Oh, I am terribly sorry about that. My apologies for that. Of course, have to tend to the mother's needs when she calls me on my phone mid-commentary. So, right, getting back into the swing of things. Of course, going on for another lap. Splash still hanging on this number 78 of Tice. But will we see pit stops coming in this time by is the big question. And the real question answer to that is no. So I'm wondering, is the 3-stop the way to go? With Splash now looks for the inside move, but T5 Black really just can't do much if he's got that 79 just sat behind as Yuri actually comes into the pit lane for an early stop. And so the 77 Audi Sport Team Sidemax crew getting to work. Quick change of tires, and the fuel nozzle goes on in. And so not much fuel into the number 77 Audi. And who's coming in as well? That is going to be UTAP as well in the number 34 Aston Martin. And so he will come out, I believe, and still in P9 with Bar 27 still out on track at the moment. And so now this is going to raise a couple of questions on as to teams whether they are going to come to start making their first stops of the race. And you wonder from T5 Black's point of view, how do you even get past this gaggle of cars who just pretty much just Splash, just trying to sit behind him, and Tice, who's just trying to defend against him. And T5 Black, you got to wonder, has got to be ultra aggressive for probably 30 seconds or so just to even get by this gaggle of cars, as he's right up back behind the number 11 of Splash. Might he be fuel saving a little bit, just trying to let gravity do the work to get these guys closer. Now, power to the pedal to the metal with that 8.4 liter V10 up in front. Probably makes a lot of heat, but needs a lot of cool air to dissipate that cooler air. Splash going to make the move to the front. Palmer, oh, that's a big moment! Oh my goodness gracious! And you knew it was going to happen. Wow, what a moment that was. Oh my goodness! Oh. Wow, what a big moment. And one of the fastest sections of the circuit, I should point out as well. Little bit of contact on the grass. Oh my God. Oh my goodness gracious me. What a moment that was for Tice. And that's going to cost him a humongous amount of time. T5 Black up in front, but with Splash up and behind, now it's going to get very interesting indeed, because Tice, where has he gone? Oh, has he backed out? Has Tice has retired the car? Oh my goodness me, so it goes from bad to worse for the number 78 of Tice. Wow, that is unbelievable. Oh my goodness gracious me, and that is tremendously bad news for the team's championship, because Palmer will get first place, but he won't have an extra wingman while up at the front. And oh my goodness me, you've got to feel for Tice, who's done extremely well in the first 15 to 20 minutes of this race, and for all of that to come undone. I don't think that was intentional for Splash's part, because he did catch the curbing, just trying to make too wide work. It works most of the time in that particular portion of the circuit, but in some cases, just like what you saw right there, Tice getting a wheel on the grass, and the car just snapped on him and caught T5 Black, and that was a big moment for what just happened. And so T5 Black now still in second place. Superboy is actually retired as well, so the numbers gain is just dropping like flies. So I'm wondering if that's a disconnect from Superboy, because he does have a tendency for his internet to cut out at given moments, and I think that might be just one of them as well. So Now, I know Tice has retired the car, but I think Superboy has had a disconnect. So, Walschweiser, and I believe everybody down below as well, giving a free position as well. So, Walschweiser, I think, so far en route to his best finish in the SRS GT3 series in the 21 Lexus RCF. And I think UTAP's coming around. Yep, that is UTAP about to make a pass, and the undercut is going to work for Walschweiser, but Walschweiser coming out of the pits. No! Walschweiser has actually come out ahead of UTAP, and on top of that has a 2-second time penalty as well. And so at the moment, T5 Black and Splash going at it as well, but Ure and Razor, of course, Ure has made a stop, but Razor will have to come into the pits at some point as well. And this is a very interesting bout at how things are being transcended here in the SRS GT3 series. UTAP, ooh, another hit into the wall. Razor and Splash, Ure getting a good run, trying to get the undercut out of the Falcon corner, down the long Conrad straight, but the straight line speed of that Mercedes is just too good against the Audi R8, which is better in the corner, no doubt about that. And Razor, I think, has actually just let the number 77 of Ure on by, realizing he doesn't want to fight it too much, as T5 Black and Splash both into the pits for simultaneous stops. There is the 79 in its pit stall. A little bit of damage, as you've just seen right there. It's just sustained from that massive hit with Tice, who unfortunately has had to retire the car. Razor also into the pits as well, as Ure gets by this gaggle of cars as well. And Palmer is still staying out, which is the interesting thing to point out as well. Of course, both cars filling on up. T5 Black getting a little bit of time on the number 11 of Splash. And I think what we're going to try and do as well is to see if we can get a word from Tice, to see if we can get a bit of what has happened. And so this battle between T5 Black and Splash still going on. But we'll go take our eyes back up to Palmer, who's definitely got to come into the pits this time by. Of course, very short on fuel, and he does make the lunge into the left-hand lane for that for this first pit stop of the day. So, Palmer, what an incredible first stint that he's had in the number 24 Mercedes-Benz AMG. Comes into the pits. And we're assuming that there's going to be a full tank of fuel going into that car. And I do hear a screaming Audi R8 V10 engine, the 5.2 liter V10 engine power plant coming around Hell Corner. And Ure will take the lead of this race. And then to do it matter as well, he's actually just set the fastest lap of the race. So Ure, what a race he's had so far. Of course, has had to make some work has had to do some work to get up to the front of the field, but now has brought that Sidemax Motorworks Audi R8 to the front of the field, and he's doing absolutely wonders with it at the moment, which is tremendous in itself, because he, like I said, Ure, one of the finest drivers of talent that you can get to drive the Audi R8. Like, is there any more else that I can say? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ping Ty to see if he wants to join in for a brief interview while we got the chance. Splash actually doing not too terrible of a job right now hanging on to the 79. Of course, 5/10 the gap. But let's see how that straight line speed of that Mercedes works compared to one of the fastest cars in a straight line, that is being the Viper. Of course, this is working wonders for Splash at the moment because he's definitely going to want to close up the gap as much as he can. The dirty air, got to be mindful of that. Very good line out of the chase. Well, that Viper is a missile in a straight. T5 Black can drive it to absolutely wonders. And so will Splash get the fastest lap of the race? No, but he does go faster than his fastest lap with the 2:01.2, but is off that fastest lap by just about a tenth and a little more. So interesting to see that happen at least. Yuri, I think, trying to go the long game here. Short game, I'd say, because gonna probably pit every 15 minutes or so, every 8 laps. So we're probably expecting the Spaniard to come back into the pits real shortly. And we're gonna see how this strategy does pan out for the Spaniard, because it looks like he's very, very good. Because I know Barcelona is his home track, don't get me wrong. But in terms of, other track notes, I do believe that Bathurst is one of his personal favorites. So I will have to confirm that as well with the Spaniard, but nothing short of what we can do. Oh my goodness me, Splash! Just hopping over the curbs. Just really trying to hold on, I'm pretty sure, to the number 79 of T5 Black. Can we get on board? Yes, we can. There is Splash from the driver's eyes. So what you are seeing is what the driver is seeing from up front. I think it's definitely going to help out Splash in the long game as well, because I think if he could sit behind the number 79 of T5 Black, he could set himself up for a very good position to just literally just train on to T5 Black. Oh, good lines out of chase for Splash and T5 Black. Let's take a moment to go further down the field as UTAP and Walschweiser has served this penalty, but UTAP having himself a 1 second time penalty at the moment. All right, so I think Walschweiser trying to serve that penalty a little bit, but I think it's going to cost him a position as well. He's actually trying to serve it right now and get in the... Oh, and I think he must have just had an issue with the engine, because he's definitely a lot slower. But hopefully he can find his way back up right with the 21 Lexus, because those two have had seemingly good battles thus far. And what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is that we got ourselves Tice, who was just involved in that massive accident in the chase in the number 78 Mercedes. Tice, I know that one's got a sting for you a little bit, buddy. Just doing so well early on in the race, and of course, you're trying to do too wide with Splash in that little kink. Most of the time it works, but I think just that time it just didn't work out for you guys. Tell us how you feel right now and what happened.
Yeah, I had an amazing first lap, so I'm quite good that happened. I could have had either B2 or B3, but that would be up to the rest of the race.
And so take us from your point of view as to exactly, take us step by step on, exactly just what happened in that incident, because I know Splash was trying to make a move on that little kink before the chase. I know you caught a wheel or two just on the grass and just completely took you out of control right into the side of T5 Black, and of course that just pretty much just ended your day right there. So explain to us in further detail as to possibly just what happened.
Yeah, so Splash went to the inside there, of course. I stayed to the outside, trying to give him as much room as possible, because if you're on the curb, then it can bounce you wider here. Fortunately, he didn't. But then I got just a little tap and I hit the grass and it just went straight into the wall.
And so unfortunately, I guess for you, of course, being taken out of the race, having done so much work to pretty much just capitalize and possibly help Palmer out with much as to what he can to establish a good race pace and race strategy. Does this completely change the strategy for Palmer now within the Simax crew, now that the fact that the car, your Mercedes, is out of the race?
It shouldn't change the strategy, really.
And so one final question, and I'll send you on your way. Of course, does this incident kind of move forward, of course? How would this incident kind of, you know, would it either give you more confidence, get you a little more angry, want you to get back in the race car, get ready for the next round? You know, what's the next step from here on out with the car retire? Because we don't see you retiring from events that often.
No, but most of the time not really affected by these kind of things. I just step into the car again and see where I can go.
And so that is SMM Tice 78, driver of the number 78 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 for the Simax Motorsports crew. Tice, I appreciate you taking time out of
Thank you.
the day. I understand it's very frustrating, but of course stuff happens in racing and just gotta move on from it, look from the positive side of things, what you've done, and get ready for the next one. And so that was Tice. And so now we look back at this battle for second place here with T5 Black and Splash still going on at the moment, as these guys have had to really start clawing a bit of a gap to Palmer. T5 Black, I feel like, has really managed the tires at the moment, because that gap is coming down like no tomorrow, because like what Tice just said, with him out of the race, it shouldn't change much in terms of strategy, but Palmer doesn't have a wingman now to basically just sit back and just, you know, have a buffer zone between them. So this is going to be interesting as well, because Palmer is going to have to fight this one out on his own, as Splash, I just seen, has just set the fastest lap of the race while being towed by T5 Black. Me and Splash, we like to make occasional jokes about like getting towed and stuff like that, doing the hot lap, stuff like that, but Splash, a 2:01.009, a very good lap for the Lithuanian driver, but British flagged. You tap into the pits for, I believe, his second stop of the day, as the race now goes down to less than an hour to go on the clock. Excuse me. Whew. Man, them cookies, man. Them cookies. And so now I'm going to pop back on the YouTube live stream here to see what you guys are cheering on. Ah, there's KK Dot in the chat saying, Grande para vamos. Paul Severa in the chat, man. It's good to see you as always. Cheering on your fellow countryman, Yure. KK Dot, one of the most enthusiastic drivers that I know of as well. Just loves to show the support for his fellow countryman. I know those two like to have fun with each other once in a while as well, even on a beach side, of course. Won't get too into detail, but of course, there is the man that Paul Severa is cheering on for at the moment. And just you can see Yure kind of in no man's land at the moment, just trying to set the pace and just use the mechanical grip to his advantage, of course. And you can still see right there, T5 Black and Splash just trying to really close up to Palmer at the moment. Jeremy's saying, go on Hair Razor and go on UTAP. So a little bit more support. All right, for everyone that's in the chat right now, start showing support for your favorite drivers here in this race. We want to get the chat hyped up. We want to get it going. It's going to be a good final hour of the race. And we just want to make sure we're having a good time, as always, on and off the track, even if I'm in the commentary booth. Of course, I drive the number 17 BMW M6. It's definitely a fun car, to say the least. I took it on for a couple laps here before the race here today, and it's definitely an interesting car, to say the least. I wouldn't say it was particularly the fastest, but it feels mushy, and it's definitely an interesting GT3 car when it's on a fixed tune as well. Paul Severa, K&K Dot saying, "Yo Trevor, good to see you back on commentary." Oh man, K&K Dot, it is, it feels special to be back in the commentary box here as well. Of course, it's like James said, keeping the seat warm for me all season long, but then I get to keep it warm for him in 2 weeks' time. But it's definitely been it was a quiet race, and it definitely got so much interesting in this race. But you have not missed out a lot as well, K&K Dot. Of course, hopefully I get to see you back on track from the commentator's point of view sometime soon in that strikingly beautiful Golf liveried Porsche. I think you do make those liveries as well, so you make some incredible liveries for these events. I think you made a Brumos Racing livery at one point. I thought, oh man, this guy makes some incredible liveries and just puts it on there and just drives the heck out of a Porsche. And so T5 Black starting to slow, I think Palmer is just starting to slow down the gap residual to T5 Black and Splash. Jeremy saying, "Don't give him a big head, in danger of being stuck in his room for all time." That's right, I'll be stuck in here in this commentator booth. I'm going to be stuck in here all the time to make sure the seat is nice and comfy for James Head when he gets back in. Walshweiser into the pits for another stop in the 21. Of course, UTAP coming across the start-finish line to take back that 6th place position. And so now Walshweiser coming out of the pits, but this time it will be UTAP who will stay out in front. That's a Walshweiser with the fresher tires. Actually, it's interesting to note that UTAP has actually just come out of the pit lane about a couple laps ago. So, the pit lane thing is was cutting out on me a little bit as well. And so now there is Razor in no man's land at the moment, just kind of doing his own thing at the moment. Of course, taking a comfortable 5th place finish for now. But it seems like Ure not that far off. Of course, 8 seconds off of Slash, but 13 off of his Sidemax teammate Polymer. T5 Black and Splash still hanging on in 2nd and 3rd. Palmer has got to start putting in some incredible laps. I think T5 Black at the moment is the faster driver of the two between Palmer and T5 Black, and I know these two have tussled it out before many times, and I'm really hoping that I get my money's worth, that we're going to have ourselves another epic battle towards the end of this race. We got 50 minutes to go, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to see that happen as well. Paul Severa in the chat again saying, "Hopefully I'll be back for Red Bull Ring in 2 weeks as well." Yeah, hopefully. I think I heard that race was going to be another wet race as well. And so I'm not a guy that likes wet weather racing, so hopefully, maybe, if I can get my act together and actually learn how to properly drive in the wet, it's going to be interesting to note to see how that will play out for me in the M6, or maybe in another car of my choosing. It's going to be, will I stick with the M6 or switch out with another car? That's another interesting to note as well. T5 Black, Splash, still on the train to get up to Palmer now. The gap now just under 4 seconds. A couple laps ago it was about 5 and even 4.5 seconds now, but now that gap's starting to go back up a little bit again as well. T5 Black, like we had seen, has just shown incredible race pace. Ooh, a little bit down on this lap. Splash having much better tire wear than his little comrade, I'd say. Of course, the Swede and the Lithuanian. still trying to get back up to Palmer at the moment, who's still going to keep on going in this race before he has to make another pit stop. So while we're kind of just kind of speculating what's probably going to happen at this rate, of course, throw out some questions out there in the chat from me. And of course, I'll be more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability as to what I could say. Paul Severa saying, maybe try out the Audi, feels really, really good on the wet. Oh my goodness gracious me. I already have enough of a tough time driving the thing in the dry. Giving it on the wet, oh my goodness gracious. Maybe you'll have to take me. Maybe you have to give me some pointers and some driving lessons on that K&K Dot. I already have fun with. I already have a tough time with it in the drive. Oh my god, I can't. I'm just already imagining just like spinal at every single corner. But I will give it a shot. There's not saying that's like I don't want to try, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I usually have a very good tendency to stick with front engine rear-wheel drive cars in the wet. And I'm kind of wondering to see if that gap between T5 Black and Palmer starting to go back up again a little bit. Was that 4 seconds not that long ago, but Palmer brought it back up to 4.4. So are the tires starting to drop off a little bit as well? Splash, knowing that T5 Black might be his only saving grace, wants to give him the bump draft and just try and help him get as close as he can to the guys up front as well. Looking at the stream count as well, thank you to the 7 of you that have still stuck on with this race. Really means a lot to me and a lot to the SRS community as well. Of course, those are pretty low numbers, but of course we want to do to the best that we can to keep providing you guys with the best of action on and off the track, even if it means I'm in the commentator's booth a couple thousand miles away from the Panorama circuit. Let's take a look and see how things are panning out here. Ure not... Ooh, that's interesting. The gap's kind of maintained the same between Palmer and Ure over the past couple of laps. Maybe they're just kind of setting the identical, similar lap times at the moment. Hairraiser still in no man's land in 5th. Walschweiser and UTAP probably about to have another battle in rage on out. Walschweiser looking to the inside, but UTAP covers off that line pretty nicely at the moment. The Canadian doing a good job at maintaining that 6th place position. Of course, I believe it was Walschweiser that tried the overcut, and then UTAP trying the undercut, and the undercut seemed to work better for the Aston Martin than it did for the Lexus. And then Bar 27 still on track, but way down in 8th place at the moment. But he will benefit from the casualties of Superboy and Tice after starting in 10th place. So he will move up a couple of positions in this running. Palmer's brought that gap back up to 4.8 seconds. So Palmer maybe starting to realize that maybe the tires have gone on the number 79 SRT Viper of T5 Black. Oh, he will. Then both these guys will definitely have to come back in to the pits. They're going to make the undercut, but they will still be a little bit ways away from off, and they're both going to come in at the same time. So these two are about to come into the pits identical to one another. And so now another stop as we just actually hit the halfway point of this race. And it's going to be Palmer that will lead them off still, but Ure coming through Hell Corner once again for lap 23 will jump the number 79 and 11. Razor also into the pits as well, out of 5th place. UTAP and Waldweiser still going at it at the moment for 6th place. Of course, 6th place in an 8-person lobby doesn't sound like a whole lot, but there are championship points on the line here. So basically, with these two starting a little bit lower down off of Superboy and Tice as well, they will each get 2 positions as well. So this is going to actually, I believe, make a big difference as to how these guys will finish. I think UTAP, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this will be either 6th or 7th place will be his best finish in the SRS Motorsports League. With Walshweiser, I think it's either 6th or 7th as well. So these two drivers will get their best finishes in SRS, as UTEP has a big moment, has to slow up, and I think Walshweiser thought of the same as well, to slow on up and give the space. Palmer thinking about coming into the pits, actually will come into the pits definitely this time by, out of lap 23. I think this is pit stop either number 2 or number 3. No, it's definitely number 3 for Palmer. An excellent first opening half of the race for Palmer in the Cymax Mercedes AMG. Of course, doesn't have his teammate anymore, but Yuri also will come into the pits as well. So, where is the number 79 and the 11 of T5 Black and Splash? They're actually coming through the final corner right now. The fuel's got to go in really, really quickly. Palmer has got that car filled up to the max. But where is Yuri is the big question. Palmer, 5.6 seconds. So he's actually gained on these guys. So the overcut has worked slightly better for the number 24, but Yuri, on the back of the 11 and the 79. I think if it splashed into the wall, I'm pretty sure. Just scraping it a little bit. Doesn't want to get too far off of T5 Black, because I think he knows that his only way would be able to salvage 3rd place in points would just to be hang behind the 79. And I remember from last season as well, Splash and Yuri having an incredible battle for, I think it was 4th place, and I think Splash came up on top of that as well. So I think we're going to be seeing round 2 between those two drivers as well. And I know they like to race the heck out of each other as well. Yuri, big power slide through the S's. And this overcut has worked tremendously well for Palmer, and he's got fresher tires than these guys behind. Paul Severa is saying, hopefully Palmer can scratch quite a few points from T5 Black, and we get a championship fight until the end of the season. It definitely was like that until the final round of the season, but T5 Black had a substantial edge. Of course, it wasn't as close as it was now, but T5 Black was pretty much just had to coast the car home, like, you know, like there were no problems, like it was okay. So that's going to be something of noting as well. Now Palmer grown that gap to 6 seconds now over T5 Black, just really doing the best that he can to get away from this group gaggle of cars. And he's also got what I like to call the henchman of the Cymax crew, Yuri. I know Keelan's going to start calling me like, don't call him henchman and all that stuff. I think Splash, starting to build the pressure a little bit as well, but knowing what he's been able to do, sit behind the 79 of T5 Black and just really be in this precarious position as well. Paul Severa saying maybe Splash and Yuri can get in between Palmer and T5 Black. Well, that's an interesting thing pointing out as well as UTAP. We'll take a break from that gaggle of cars up front as UTAP pits out of 6th place. Walshweiser getting back that 6th place position as well. And that, I believe, is either a disconnect or a retirement from bar 27. So that is not good news from the American driver who's just retired the number 27 Red Bull Aston Martin. And now it's down to 7 cars left on track. So we'll take a moment. Now I think these guys are guaranteed best positions in the SRS Motorsports League. It's just going to be if one of them gets 6th and then one of them gets 7th. Hairraiser is pretty much just in no man's land, just setting laps for the next 40 minutes of this race. Kind of a little boring, but you take what you can get. So not too ashamed of, you know, Razor doing a good job in this race. T5 Black, still just, I think, having a bit of an issue on just trying to get back up with the number 24 Mercedes. So it's going to be interesting to note on how that will pan on out. And so Jeremy in the chat saying, I predicted those three, Black, Splash, and Ure, having a crash. That is some pretty good speculation, but I think it's going to be much later in the race, because I think right now with 37 minutes to go, there's not a lot to push for at the moment. You just kind of want to sit back and relax a little bit, just try and set some laps, get up to the front of the leader as much as you can. But I think as we go into the final, and Splash with a big hit off the wall, that's going to cost them a little bit of time off of T5 Black. And I was going to say, as we get into the final stint of this race, final 15, final 10 minutes of this race, then that's when it starts. Then that is where it's going to get very, very pushy indeed. And that's going to be of interesting to note as well. Keelan in the chat, good to see you again, Keelan, saying 2 huge announcements coming from SideMax at 8 p.m. time. So it's about 11 to the top of the hour, so we're expecting big announcements from the SideMax crew in about 11 minutes time. But Keelan, it's good to see you in the chat once again as well. I know the SideMax crew have got to be well rested, of course, after the Suzuka 1000 not that long ago. Jeremy saying, signing Black and see you. I'm sorry, I was laughing because I thought it was a little bit funny. Not that I didn't think it was going to happen, but I just figured it's like, you know, it's like they're pretty committed to TSR, so. So Splash now getting back with the back bumper of T5 Black. I've been here just busy doing SideMax BTS stuff, is what Keelan is saying in the chat. Hey, nothing wrong about being busy. You know, SideMax is a very well-established esports team, and of course, from the first time I've seen SideMax to what they are now, they have just absolutely imploded in immaculate driver talent. Just no denying that they have come. Not GTS, it's for Formula 1, so that's going to be interesting to note as to how that will pan on out as well. Paul Severa saying, yo, Keelan, of course, getting a little bit of hype in the chat. Of course, very, very interesting to see between drivers get to see each other once again. Taking on board with the Spaniard of Ure in that number 77 Audi R8 LMS. And so now Ure just kind of sitting behind these two. Of course, the straight line speed isn't there in the Audi. I think he's got to use that mechanical grip more than anything. Ure doing an incredibly fine job just to keep on the track. 6.7 seconds the gap now between... Oh. I didn't mean to do that. I think T5 Black at the moment just trying to use that short shifting advantage that he's got in that Viper. Or just really full throttle. Because that car has a lot of torque, and I think even if you short shift, that car is still going to carry a lot of torque to drive it in a straight line. Fastest lap potentially for the number 79. We're going to keep an eye out on that, but hopefully Ure does not disconnect. I feel so upset for Ure if he was to disconnect in this race right now after putting on such a performance in the 77. 1.1 second gap between these two. Walshweiser coming into the pits once again as well, out of 6th place in the 21 Lexus RCF GT3. New tires going on and new fuel going in as well. UTAP, I think, is a lot further back than what we had seen. Actually, I think he's just come out of the pits not that long ago, I'm pretty certain. So lots of fuel going in that car as well, but UTAP has lost a substantial amount of time to Walshweiser, so something has happened that we weren't able to pick up on, and I'm really curious to see what that may be. Go with UTAP once again. May have missed it, so I'm kind of wondering what's happened to UTAP out of all curiosity. And there is Palmer just doing his thing, you know, not having to worry about a whole lot, just maintaining this current pace that he's got going. He's actually just set his fastest lap of the race, a 2:01.077. I think I just caught it, I'm pretty sure. But just really doing his own thing at the moment, just really maintaining this pace and getting away from T5 Black Splash and Ure, who of which are still in this Skyglow cars. Ure, Splash losing a bit of time, but Ure gaining from it as a result. And so we're about to come to the final 30 minutes of this race. Normally the clock would be, race is over, but nope, we got ourselves every third round. This is, of course, round number 6. So for the round 3, round 6, and the finale of the season, we pop that 60-minute endurance race. We flip around that 6, and we turn it into a 90-minute endurance race. And that's what exactly you're seeing right here. Home of the Bathurst 12-hour every February, except for 2021 because of you know what. And I believe Splash is starting to lose touch with the Viper of T5 Black, which is interesting to note. Oh, you're a big power slide, and I think he knows Splash is in a weak and vulnerable situation here against the Speedy Gonzalez Ure. And so the gap now between Splash and T5 Black now 1.2 seconds. So I think T5 Black starting to build a bit of a gap. Oh, I think T5 Black has actually had a slow exit out of Hell Corner. We'll take you on board with that. T5 Black setting a fastest lap with a 2:09.56. Ooh, a little bit of understeer actually out of the corner for T5 Black. Going to drop it down a little bit, but T5 Black a 2:09.56. That has got to send chills down Palmer's spine. And Splash has actually caught himself back up with the number 79 of T5 Black, which is interesting. And so 30 minutes have elapsed. That's now we're on to the final third of this race. And so T5 Black, I'm a little surprised because I thought I'd expect T5 Black to just really claw his way back up to Palmer, but I think Palmer might know the circuit more inside and out. I think he's definitely learned something from the last time that these two have faced each other in the first season of the SRS GT3 series, that maybe there was something that Palmer might have missed, and he's finally caught it, and it's definitely helping him stay well and truly ahead of T5 Black. Of course, where is Walshweiser and UTAP? 6 seconds between Walshweiser and UTAP. Razor, 38 seconds. Oh, is that a moment for Walshweiser? I think it was. We'll take a look at that again. I think he might have just had a moment coming into... Oh, yep, bit too much. Like, literally not even any braking, which is the interesting thing as well. I think that was because of the fact that it was on an uphill section. Ure into the pit lane. Oh. Something just happened, I think. Ooh, okay, so Ure taking less fuel, so he's definitely going to go on a short run. He's going to make one more stop in this race. Paul Severa in the chat once again saying maybe the Viper is not as good as the Corvette was last season around here. I forgot about that, actually. I forgot T5 Black was in the Corvette last season. Maybe the Viper not as good around the circuit as the Mercedes is, probably. So maybe T5 Black, knowing that he might not have a whole lot in the tank to get to the Mercedes. They are similarly identical cars to one another as well. Oh, and I think T5 Black just wants to keep that number 11 of Splash behind. I think Splash is more or less, they're kind of on the same page as to one another, even though they might not be in the same chat as one another. I think Splash now just trying to see what he can do. But it's more or less, I think it's just want to more or less just sit back behind and not do a whole lot. Oh my goodness gracious me, Splash! Jesus Lord. See this again from the number 11. Oh, that didn't look as substantially bad as it once was on the stream. Splash has got to be a little bit careful because he knows that he wants to... Oh, and I think Splash... putting on the flashes, I think there might be some tension between those two drivers, but he's got to keep it careful and keep it honest if they want any chance of getting up to the number 24 Palmer. As you can just see, was actually in the front of the screen. Now you can't see him, but with T5 Black, maybe we'll get a glimpse of him. You can just see him right there as he's rounding Griffin's corner, I should say. But this has been kind of a slow run so far for these guys. I think this is, if there's a song that I could depict in how things are going right now, it's Slow Ride, Take It Easy. Down, down, down. Don't want to say any more because of, oh, there goes my controller. Don't want to say too much more because of copyright issues, of course. On board now with Splash once again, just really over the back bumper of the number 79, just not trying to do a whole lot to mess things up between these two drivers. But I think, like I said, things could get a little spicy and interesting as we go into the final stint. And so now, nothing a whole lot of something, but it is something regardless. And what we're going to do now, of course, we're going to take you on board with the number 79 for 2 laps of the famous Mount Panorama circuit. Well, I did say 2 laps, but I guess we're going to cut that off 1 lap short as Splash and T5 Black both come into the pits for what I assume is going to be the final pit stop of the race for these 2 drivers. And where is Ure is the big question as he rounds the final corner in the 77 SRS Motorsports Audi Sport entry. And of course, Keelan's saying that there were going to be announcements made at 3 o'clock. All right, SideMax, what's your announcement going to be? What's your announcement going to be? I'm looking at it. All right, so Hair Razor into the pits for one final time out of 5th place. A very quiet but comfortable 5th place for Razor thus far. While Schweizer and UTAP, that battle, unless something happens for one of those guys, probably is going to be settled for the time being. Jeremy's saying they're going to keep better timing. Well, you never know what you're going to get with SideMax, to be quite honest with you. So, SideMax do what SideMax want, right? Keelan will have to confirm that for me, of course. And now Palmer at the moment going to come in as well to make his final stop of the race as well. Palmer, which has pretty much just, in my eyes, just led this race from start to finish, absolutely dominating the day thus far. And I don't want to give them the commentator's curse just entirely, but there's basically, he can do it, basically. I have high hopes that he can do it, but there is Ure, a Spaniard, who will come on through, and I believe, I want to say get out just where his teammate is. I believe so, and I think Ure will come out, or Palmer will come out ahead of his teammate, albeit 8 seconds faster now than Palmer, than T5 Black and Splash. So Palmer has pretty much just done a whole lot to still be in prime contention of where they are. And so now, with about just under 19 minutes to go in this 6th round of the SRS GT3 series by the SRS Motorsports League, it is Palmer that leads them off in the 24 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 for the SideMax crew. Then it is his SideMax teammate, but not in the same brand camp as the Mercedes. It's Ure in that number 77 Audi R8 LMS. And then this T5 Black in the SRT Viper GT3R for Team Simpact Racing in that 79 Mercedes-Benz. And you've got Splash in that Speedway Motorsports number 11 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3, who's just kind of just sat behind T5 Black for the majority of this race. And it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how these two will go about trying to get by one another. Similarly identical fuel loads to one another, and Hair Razor not even in a battle, just in the top 5, just doing really his own thing at the moment. Doesn't have to worry about a whole lot. He could probably crash the car a couple of times and still be in for 5th place. While Schweizer en route to what is probably going to be his best finish in the SRS Motorsports League with P6. Of course, we've had 3 retirements in this race, While Schweizer in for the 21 Lexus RCF, probably en route, like I said, to his best career finish in SRS. Then UTAP, I think, the same as well in the 7th place with that 34 Aston Martin, of course. The only one so left on the track. We had 3 to start, but then only one of them remain. Superboy having internet issues, disconnecting from the race, unfortunately. Bar 27, I fear the same exact way as well, but we're not 100% sure on why the reason is that he disconnected as well. And then Tice with that massive accident towards Chase with T5 Black and Splash battling it out for 2nd place, gets it into the gravel, massive damage probably on that car, and had to just retire it on the spot, unfortunately. And so Palmer just doing his own thing, really, not worrying about a whole much. I'm about to pop SciMax Motorworks a mention saying, like, you know, where's the message? Where's the message? But it's like, where's the announcement? Where's the announcement? And so now, kind of just getting a little bit quiet out on the track at the moment. It's kind of a little bit surprised by it. Gear 8 will have to fly on this stint if he wants to catch these two. I would keep in mind that he's going to have to come into the pits, but yes, Ken Kadot, you are right. He will have to be, like, absolutely on it, like 120% mode, if he wants to catch and maintain 2nd place against T5 Black and Splash for the end of this race. Jeremy, in fairness, he didn't specify a day. Keelan really pushed and get a big team of drivers, only aiming for the highest quality across all the games are on. Kilna on ACC, as we have seen, of course, SciMax flexing the big guns out in the chat right now. I like that out of those guys. While Schweizer into the pits, out of for the number 21 Lexus. I think UTAP has just had another moment less. He's 226 on the 1 lap, so he's definitely had an incident somewhere, unless that is his pit stop. Yeah, it probably is his pit stop, as a matter of fact. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans on out as T5 Black and Splash both come in. Ure definitely into the pits for his final stop of the race with 13 3/4 of a minute to go. And so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all does pan on out. Of course, this crew very, very experienced on and off the track, so it's going to be interesting how these guys, how Ure can put that experience to hand. Of course, the gap now 6.8 seconds between himself and Splash, but take another 2/10, and he's got about 7 to 8 seconds to make up in these final 13 minutes of this race. So Ure is going to have to absolutely push if he wants any chance at a podium here today for the Mercedes, for that team right there as well. Palmer, you can pretty much just put the fuel mode into 2 and just kind of relax, buddy. Just do your own thing. Of course, very, very talented in that car. And it's going to be interesting how this goes about as well. I know Ure, like you said, was... Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break away from the mainstream of things, and I'm going to turn our attention to a specific driver, Ure. Of course, he did mention this earlier, but he did say that this year, or I believe so, was going to be his final set of races on GT Sport. I know he's moving to the Assetto Corsa Competizione squad, and I have a lot of faith that he will do very, very well in that side of the Cymax camp as well. Of course, he's been able to race with them as hard as we want to and have a very, very great time with one another as well. Just, he's one of the most enthusiastically amazing guys on and off the track. You know, can give you a run for your money if you ask him to. Even if it's in an Audi, even if it's in the Mercedes, even if it's in a Jaguar. He will do it any day of the week, and he will never give up. There is a team spirit that Jure brings to the table, and he will not fight. He will not stop fighting until the job is done. And of course, I do wish, from my side of things, from my heart, the best for Jure, for what he can do in the Assetto Corsa Competizione with those guys in the Cymax crew. You know, he's one of the Cymax's younger talents, I feel like. Now, I don't know every single driver in the Cymax crew, but I know he's a very good guy to talk to as well. Worked with him on so many projects over this 2020 season, and I think Assetto Corsa is going to be another big chapter for him in the future as well. But if he can get a podium, what an absolutely tremendous way to close off the year would it be to get a podium with an Audi at the same place that he did it a couple months later. Wouldn't that be something special? Here's one of the, oh my goodness, Keelan. No, I botched it. Keelan, yours one of the, oh my goodness gracious me. Keelan, oh no, I can't believe I've done this. Oh, I can imagine Keelan's gonna start flooding my DMs with just like you're messing up, you're messing up. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I like that. F1 is fairly young. I think average is around 17 to 18 years old. GT is around 20, and then ACC is from 16 to 31. My goodness gracious me, people from all ages on Assetto Corsa Competizione as well. I think, yeah, but yes, we can have an all-Spanish team with Jure and Jose. Oh, that'd be very interesting as well. So the Flying Spaniards, as I like to call them. Of course, they do, because unfortunately I feel like Spaniards on GT Sport and anywhere else, they do get a lot of rubbish for just basically their driving. Like, you know, it's like sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not intentional, but they just get so much rubbish because it's like oh, they're from Spain. It's like it's racing. But Jure and K Dot, to name a few, are just a couple of those drivers from Spain who they're very clean guys, they're very clean drivers, and they like to put on a show. Like, whether if it's on a good day, whether it's on a bad day, they'll put on a good show, and they will fight, like I said, until the job is done. And in this case for Jure, until the time on GT Sport comes to a close, and he moves over to Assetto Corsa Competizione. We'll take a break from Jure as he closes his way up to the front of the field, taking out a second out of Splash at the moment. Palmer still leading the way. 10 seconds the gap now between these two guys. Man, Palmer just absolutely dominating today. T5 Black in second still. Nothing a whole lot to worry about against Splash. He's been just kind of just sitting behind, you know. But Splash, I feel like, I think T5 Black is starting to figure, you know, it's getting to the end of the race. Might there be moves and dives being flung out around and about between these two? But I think if there's one particular lap that Splash is going to save the move of the century on, it's definitely going to be the final corner. But you got this man who is going to be on a charge to get back up to the front. with second and third. On board once again with the British flag Lithuanian Splash. And so now he's really just kind of just sitting out and about. Kind of been the wingman for T5 Black, Team Simbat Racing. Oh, T5 Black hitting the wall a little bit. And so, what can we see being done in between these two drivers in the final 6 minutes of the race? Splash really trying to get the car to straighten out as he's still trying to maintain a gap to T5 Black. You kind of wonder if Splash is going to have the motivation and confidence to make a dive up a corner or two, or right, or send it around the outside. Oh, and I don't think Splash was trying to force an issue, but T5 Black now starting to bend, and I think this is what we were talking about. Splash might just start playing a little bit aggressive now. T5 Black now starting to defend, and now Splash up on the inside falls back behind the Viper of T5 Black, and this is exactly what we were talking about. This final stint is going to get and going to start getting extremely hairy between these two. And this is what Yuri needs. He needs these two to start fighting at one another so he can close up the gap to get up into the podium places. But to do that, Yuri has got 5 minutes to do it and not a whole lot of time left to spare in order to make that count. And so, Splash and T5 Black still going at it. And now, between these two, anything can happen, and anything can and might not happen. Maybe hopes and dreams could be shattered, hopes and dreams could be achieved, but I think definitely someone's hopes and dreams are probably going to get shattered. And some of those hopes and dreams are definitely going to be achieved, but it's going to be how those dreams and hopes and dreams can be achieved is going to be the big question, the big what if. Splash and T5 through the Falcon corner once again. Yuri, you can just see, not that far off of these two drivers at the moment. A little bit of lag from Yuri, but I don't think it was severe enough to warrant a disconnect. You can just see right there, those are the two cars that Yuri is trying to chase down. That is the SRT Viper GT3R of T5 Black for Team Simbat Racing and the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 of Splash for Speed Demon Motorsports. And so at the moment, Yuri closing that gap down now. T5 Black. And I think these two have kind of cooled down with each other now, just to kind of make, you know, hey, I'm gonna push you. But I think T5 Black is now a little bit on guard because of the fact that Splash tried making those moves. And so Splash now with a faster lap at the moment than T5 Black, possibly to sneak back an extra bonus point in this race. And also, what a race would it be for Splash if he were to actually get by T5 Black? Because that would be, if Splash were to get second, it would be his best finish in the SRS Motorsports League. When you think about it, podiums for Palmer, T5 Black, you know, finishing off the podium, those things are just, they're just unheard of. you don't hear about it that often, but when you hear, oh, Palmer and T5 Black not getting a podium, now it starts to make you turn your heads, because those are the two drivers that have a tendency to get podiums in every single race. The gap now, 4.3 seconds to good. Is there traffic for Palmer? There was, where UTAP not an issue anymore with about, and I do believe this will be the final lap of the race. So Palmer has got to trek the Bathurst circuit on Mount Panorama for one final time in the number 24 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. Just an absolutely dominating performance. Not even really challenged, I hate to say it, because Palmer just, had to challenge Tice for a little bit for the beginning, and then Tice just kind of just started dropping back a little bit to hold things up a little bit for a couple people. Possibly, had Tice not held up any of these guys, might have that made the difference in terms of Palmer winning this race or someone else winning this race. That's the big question to ask as well. Now, T5 Black and Splash side by side towards Griffin's corner, and T5 Black still up ahead. Yuri knows he doesn't have a whole lot of time left. He's got about 50 seconds to make up 3.5 seconds to T5 Black and Splash. Hairraiser actually going to make it to the final lap of this race, and I do believe Walshweiser will come up short, so he will finish this race first, I believe. Through Skyline they go for one final time. KK saying Yuri might not even have enough fuel. I personally believe, I feel like Yuri does have enough fuel to get to the line, so he should be good in that good aspect. For one final time, that the 24 just, I think, lights the flag. Victory it is going to be for Palmer for 90 minutes. Walshweiser will come home to finish the race in P6, and that will be it for the Swiss driver. Side by side between T5 Black and Palmer, or T5 Black and Splash, but coming to the line for one final time, it will be the 24 of SRS Palmer for SRS Motorsports, who will win round number 6 of the SRS GT3 series at Bathurst. And T5 Black Splash tried to put up a good effort, but it will be the Viper who comes out on top. T5 Black and then Splash come home for second and third. Yuri not that far off, in for fourth place. What a race that was as well. I think we saw Splash trying to make a move on T5 Black. UTAP also will come home for 7th place, but what an effort for Yuri, who tried absolutely clawing his way back, only finished 1.8 seconds off the podium. I'd say that's definitely a pat on the back and a round of applause for the Spaniard, who gave it absolutely everything that he got as well. 4/10 the gap between T5 Black and Splash tying his best result of SRS in any league race for 3rd place, and he's got to be happy about that as well. But Palmer taking the win. We'll come back to him in a second as Hairraiser finally makes his way to the end of the race, finishing in 5th for the 69 Costa Racing by STM team. But there is your race winner. SRS Palmer will take a lights to flag victory for the Cymax crew in the number 24. You see there on your screen, SRS GT3 Season 2, round number 6, still wearing the Suzuka 1000 suit that he was originally supposed to wear. Or no, actually wearing his another, it was for another league, so definitely forgot to see that as well. And so now, the host has left, and so I'm not sure if we will get our traditional podium movers. I would like to try and get him in as well. So we're going to expect Splash, or not Splash, Palmer, T5 Black, and Splash possibly in the party chat as well. Jeremy saying, well done all. Thanks to for the great commentary as always. Jeremy, thank you so much for the kind compliments. I really appreciate them. Paul Severa saying, great GG, everyone in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait probably a couple of minutes for the race to resolve itself. I'm going to take you on board. I'm going to wait about 3 minutes or so just to see what can happen. And so we do have interviews coming in real shortly. There's one of the podium finishers in the hands of Splash. And Splash, buddy, of course, my fellow speed demon, you've got to be proud with that third place podium here today.
Yeah, whew, I'm still shaking, man. Wow, it was one of the best my race in I don't know, in 3 years. Jesus.
Yeah, you had to work for that one a little bit, sitting behind T5 Black, using him as your conductor for the majority of that race. And that's got to be fun for you.
Superb. He's a superb racer. So, yeah. I don't know what happened with Thijs in early stage.
I caught it on the stream, so I'm definitely going to play that back, and I'll talk to you about the race after that as well. But yeah, he had
to see it, so it was very near one another.
Definitely,
I'm
definitely.
Still shaking, man.
A good day for Splash in the number 11 Speed Demon Motorsports Mercedes-Benz, getting third place, tying his best result in SRS. We'll move on to, once again, T5 Black, second place here today. Man, every time I'm in this commentary box, you always seem to find your way on in. You got to be happy with second place today, once again at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, I'm happy. It took me a while, maybe 30 seconds, 40 minutes, I should say, to adjust to a Grand Turismo game.
Now, I know you said you usually do racing on a set of course of Competizione as well, but of course, was there any chance that you probably could have given Palmer a good run for his money today with the Viper?
I did a mistake in turn 2. Let maybe 2 or 3 cars pass me. And then we had this incident with the Tyson, Splash and me, and from that point, I don't know.
I unfortunately
caught. But I don't think so. No.
I unfortunately caught it on stream for you to look back.
It was a fun race. Splash out there in the slipstream.
He was. I know.
Half of the race.
I've known Splash for a good while now. He'll race you if he wants to. It's kind of on his terms, and it's like, well, we're gonna race. If I'm gonna sit, I'm gonna sit. So.
Yeah, we did try a couple of times, but I think the Viper is too fast in a straight line.
Oh my goodness, definitely. I will definitely give it that as well. The Viper, an absolute missile in a straight, of course. But T5 Black, another good day for you. Second place today at Mount Panorama, and we're going to turn into the man who basically was just never challenged, in my opinion. SMM Polymer. Again, you get revenge from last season. You take the win to T5 Black today at Mount Panorama. Tell us about your race today, Polymer. I bet it's going to be short and simple for you.
Well, it sort of looks alright from the outside, but on the inside, driving the Mercedes around this track, it felt very odd. Like the car didn't really feel the same as what it did last season and the tyres seemed to be go off a lot quicker. So, you know, a few mistakes here and there, and that second stint I was making quite a lot of mistakes, and that gap was slowly coming down, and I was kind of thinking, you know, maybe it's not going to be as easy as what I thought it was going to be, but luckily it was. And like you said, you know, good to get some revenge after barely losing out the win last season. Yeah, not really much to say after that. But you know, I mean, Bathurst I think is probably one of my strongest tracks, apart from Interlagos. And yeah, not really much to say after that race.
So were you kind of expecting T5 Black to really charge his way up back to you and kind of give you a rough and tussle like last season it was, or was it kind of just a smooth sailing ride for you to take the victory?
Well, Yeah, I was kind of expecting that Viper to be in my rearview mirror, to be honest. And like especially with the straight line speed, and of course the pure speed of T5. You know, of course I was struggling a little bit in that second stint, and especially on that on lap 12 on the first stint, the tyres definitely hit the cliff. So I was a bit worried about what it was going to be like for the rest of the race. And of course, you know, 4 seconds. I think it got down to 3 seconds at one point. You know, I started to get a bit anxious inside the helmet and inside the car, but you know, all that anxiety went as soon as the gap opened up again. And you know, of course, it was unfortunate what happened to Tice. Of course, I don't know what happened, but I knew it was down the chase because the 50-meter marker board was gone for the whole race. But yeah, he was sort of acting as mining race engineers and that, and giving us updates on the gaps and that, and how the gaps are differing and that. So yeah, that sort of like made me a bit more confident and that. And yeah, that last stint, I was like, you know, knowing that Splash and T5 were probably going to battle, and I think they did battle. I'm not really too sure, but yeah, I just, you know, I didn't really push very much. But yeah, quite a smooth sailing race in a way, but like not as smooth sailing as what it looked like outside the car.
And so definitely not a smooth sailing race, but of course you take the win regardless. As for the incident with Tice, I did get that on stream as well, so you could definitely look back at that as well. I'm going to take you through a quick couple of comments before the stream here. Of course, Gerard Para in the chat, SMM Ura in the chat, saying I needed to do 5 stops because the Audi was bad on the tires, but a great race anyway, regardless. Hairraiser in the chat saying well done all. Appreciate all the compliments, guys. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the 6th round of the SRS GT3 series today. Congratulations to all the podium finishers, all the drivers, and all the racers that have took the checkered flag here today. Of course, it's a very special time for me to once again get in the middle of the commentator's booth once again in place of James Head. Of course, James Head, rest up, buddy. I know you've done a whole lot of work, but of course, I'll be back for you whenever you need me again. I've been S_RDZ, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you guys for round number 7 in 2 weeks' time at Red Bull Ring for the SRS GT3 series.